I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Good afternoon, this is Dr. Bones Live here on a Saturday afternoon, which means it's time for another episode of...
And now it's time for another episode of Blogger's Corner with Britt.
Blogger's Corner. Britt, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing well.
So this week, obviously Arrow is done for the season, but there's still more to talk about, and I tried to start watching Game of Thrones last night, but I got sidetracked and I started watching the first season of Curb Your Enthusiasm instead. So, just one of those things. I wasn't sure if I was ready for anything intense, so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna, because it was later at night, getting ready to go to bed, so I was like, oh, I'll watch Curb Your Enthusiasm instead. So, I got kind of lighter side of things, but next few days I'm gonna try to get watching it and try to cram pretty much all 3 seasons into a few days or a week and see what I can do with that.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a show you can definitely binge watch, as they're calling it these days.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people talking about it at work, so I've heard bits and pieces, but I still don't know enough to go on. So I'm not going to start yapping about it because I really don't know much about it, and I'm not going to start blowing smoke and think like, well, I can talk about this because I know like maybe 2 parts of it, right? So, but
hey, that's like the best part about it.
Yeah, no, very true. So we're gonna go right into music news here. First thing, I will put the link up, and it's all over YouTube right now. But was last night or Thursday night on the Tonight Show. As much as I despise Jimmy Fallon, everybody knows why, but they had a drum off between Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers and Will Ferrell, which was awesome. So they had 2 drum kits out, and pretty much they each played 4 little solos, and obviously Chad Smith just killed it, and Will Ferrell actually did pretty well. And but the last song, Will Ferrell's last solo, what he did is, of course, if everybody's seen the best of Will Ferrell, he pulled out the cowbell. So he started playing the cowbell, and of course what happens, the rest of the Red Hot Chili Peppers came out and they started jamming Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult. So it was pretty funny. It was a nice finish, so. And of course Will Ferrell gets like this huge award for like best drummer, but it was funny, but it was one of those things, it was almost one of those things you kind of thinking maybe the cowbell will come out, maybe not, and sure enough they did, and that is probably one of the funniest skits. And obviously Christopher Walken is the producer in the original skit, and he's like, I got a fever, and what it needs is more cowbell. and so it was, and obviously the irony behind it too was Jimmy Fallon was in that skit as well. He was the guitarist who couldn't stop laughing, which would drive me nuts, but that's one of the reasons.
Well, at least he thought it was funny.
Yeah, no, I mean it was a hilarious skit, but like I said before, in almost every single skit he did, chuckle, laugh. All right, enough. You got to be able to contain yourself. That's part of being comedians. You got to be able to contain yourself, not laugh at everything. So either way, it was really funny, and I know it's up on YouTube somewhere, so I'll find a clip to put that up too. I wish I had it queued up, but I don't. I just didn't have time to get it ready. But it just in general, it's a really funny skit, and obviously Will Ferrell being the comedian he is, it just gives it his all. And I think one of the most funniest parts is when he's playing the cowbell and he gets closer and closer, pretty much right in the singer's ear and hitting it. And it cracks me up every time. And everybody who knows Will Ferrell knows that as soon as you say cowbell, they know exactly what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So that drum off was cool regardless. If, I know, like I said, at the end, it kind of played into the original skit, but it was really funny and really well done. It was just cool to see if Will Ferrell had any talent in drums at all, and he did all right. I mean, personally, I can't really play, so I can't say from any experience that, but he seemed all right to me. We'll put it that way.
That's cool.
But in other news, I think I talked about briefly last week, the Foo Fighters have a new album coming out in the fall, and it's already halfway done, which is awesome. And there's a few articles. I don't believe I posted them. I'll post them soon. And the first one, the Foo Fighters, is Dave Grohl is talking about how the new album is more gonna be stadium anthems than like they kind of bang out some really good songs, but just kind of go nuts. But still going to be like very powerful, very cool. So it's going to be another step in the Foo Fighters constantly evolving in their sound and change in their music. So I'm looking really forward to that. And just randomly, again at the time, the Foo Fighters are their drummer Taylor Hawkins. The title of the article is Taylor Hawkins really hates U2's Discotheque, and that was an album that came out in '97, and I pretty much agree with him. Between that one and Zeropa, it almost sunk U2. I'm glad it didn't, but those were two like way too far experimental albums than they should have done. But either way, he just he just said that this song was not great. Just like it could have killed him, just like I just said. So, but it was just funny because that's just such a random article. And and just two other things here. One, Aerosmith is talking about probably they may never release a new album, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, they've more than put in their time, and so if they don't, not a big deal because between Steven Tyler and Joe Perry, I mean, they've been doing like solo stuff and just like behind the scenes sort of thing. So. Not putting out another album, not necessarily the biggest deal in the world. The other news, actually, excuse me, is Paul McCartney had to cancel pretty much his entire tour because he was hospitalized for a virus. But they're expecting complete recovery. There's not too much detail, just like he wasn't feeling well, so they canceled a few shows, and then it's like, all right, I got to go to the hospital. So they canceled the rest of the shows, which sucks. I mean, money will be refunded through the ticket, whether it's Ticketmaster or what have you, and they're going to try to make the shows once he's better and feeling a lot better and back on his feet. So be looking forward to that. And the only other thing in here, there's a lot to go into, so I'm not going to kind of go over the entire thing. But Jack White, there's an article on him again, Rolling Stone, and pretty much talks about Lazarus, that pretty much the quickest album ever to come out. So it gives you all the full detail of what he did, like mixing, producing, the whole deal. So it's an interesting read, but just like I said, just a little bit too much to go into. And the other thing is actually just almost because they are doing re-releases of excuse me, Led Zeppelin 1, 2, and 3. And I think we got Britt back. Do we have you back, Britt?
I'm back.
All right. So like I was saying is Led Zeppelin has re-released Led Zeppelin 1, 2, and 3, and they put some bonus material on there, which should be pretty cool. And in the same instance, right now, they're in a lawsuit because they're being sued because apparently the opening for Stairway to Heaven was ripped off. Allegedly.
Okay.
So it's allegedly. They opened up for the band is called Spirit, and this is 60, I believe it was 67 in Denver. And the opening to one of the songs called Taurus is apparently the same opening to Stairway to Heaven. So we'll see how that materializes. I haven't heard the song Taurus, so I can't say whether or not it sounds close enough to it. It's very possible. But these are allegations, and the guy who pretty much fronted Spirit, that sort of thing, has already passed on. So now it's like these like newer lawyers kind of going after the lawsuit. And all I have to say is good luck with that.
Well, why did it take till 2014 for them to realize that one of the most popular rock songs of all time had been, quote-unquote, ripped off from them?
Well, that's right. And so, I don't know, just one of those things, like, I guess, no, they need money, I'm assuming.
I guess. When I heard about this, I was very confused.
Yeah, I saw that, because I'd read a book on Led Zeppelin not too long ago, and it talked briefly about this because Jimmy Page had been accused before for plagiarizing certain things. Like apparently Dazed and Confused was one of them. Like I said, I'd have to read the book over again to remember every single detail, but there's a few songs that they were talked about as being plagiarized, and that being said, they don't really give you any access to the original songs that were apparently plagiarized off of. So there's no way to tell exactly what was ripped off, or even if it was ripped off.
Oh,
so,
okay.
I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, bands, not all bands, but some bands are in a constant battle. They're constant lawsuits, and some of them are very frivolous, and they pretty much go debunked, or they're thrown out because there's not enough evidence to support it. But now it seems like a lot of the older bands, I'm talking like, let's say, maybe early 90s, like 80s, and some of the 70s and 60s bands are claiming that these people are playing music without rights, so they're trying to sue and make money. And it's like these bands are pretty much out of money by now, because a lot of them, they were popular at the time, but their popularity only lasted so long, so not enough to hold on to we'll call it a king's ransom. So now they're looking, I guess, to survive a little bit more. So
interesting. I mean, which way do you think that this will go?
I think it'll go in favor of Led Zeppelin, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree.
I really do. I mean, there's too much there, and even if they did, like I said, these are just allegations, and there's no way of proving it one way or the other. At least in my eyes, there's not. So we're just grossly speculating. We'll put it this way. Best way to give ourselves a disclaimer here, but I'm sure, almost positive, it's going to go in favor of Led Zeppelin, just because of who they are and the lawyers they have. I mean, and it just sometimes it's very hard to prove if it was ripped off or not, because it could be the same. Let's say first 3 or 4 notes, but then if they change it afterwards, if some of the notes are changed, then it's not necessarily the same. It may sound close to it, but it's not exactly the same. I mean, there's been lawsuits like this before. One years ago actually was a battle between Vanilla Ice and David Bowie and Queen for Under Pressure. Because Ice Baby, apparently that loop, and it does pretty much sound almost exactly the same as Under Pressure. So I can see why that lawsuit went down. And there's one more big one. I'm trying to remember what it was now.
The Rolling Stones?
No, it wasn't Rolling Stones, actually. Now I remember. It was a song, actually, from the Red Hot Chili Peppers album, Mother's Milk. His name was called, like, Red Hot Little Ditty. And there's the band, I think the song was called Butterfly. And the band, the band was a one-hit wonder. And it was a complete rip-off, so the Chili Peppers won that lawsuit with no issues at all.
Oh, I didn't. That one hadn't stuck in my. I've always heard that song. I never knew that they ripped it off from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Well, it's just the little guitar loop is what they ripped off.
Well, yeah, and that's a very crucial part of that song.
Exactly. No, it's not a very long song, but still, the fact is that they ripped it off. I mean, most people who've used samples like Ice from the bigger bands have either paid for the rights or that sort of thing. They've gotten the legit ways to do it. So they may be paying some royalties on part of what they're playing, but for the most part, it's their song, so there's no backlash to it.
Yeah, right. I remember, it was back in the quote-unquote day. I can't remember the name of the song. I do know it played at the end of Cruel Intentions, and that was, I think it's something called Melody. I don't remember, and the Rolling Stones ended up suing, and they were like a one-hit wonder, too. It was a very successful song. It had a bunch of violins in it. Does this ring any bells?
Not off the top of my head, no.
It's called Bittersweet Symphony.
Oh, the Verve. Is it the Verve?
That's right.
Yeah, the Verve. Yeah. I didn't realize that one was ripped off.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but I believe, if memory serves, they did get sued by the Rolling Stones, and they had to settle. And apparently, I don't remember what part of the song had been taken, but it was with the Rolling Stones, and there was a whole lawsuit with that.
Wow, I don't even remember that, honestly. I'm surprised. I'm trying to...
I'll have to look into it.
I'm trying to think, and I can't place it at this moment.
I'm looking it up.
Okay. But yeah, so this goes on, and this made big news. This Led Zeppelin one made big news. It was not only in the Rolling Stone, but it was in a Canadian paper called the National Post, which is it's straight across Canada. It was like front page news. Like, wow, this is a really big deal.
Right.
So I just curious to see what the outcome is, but my guess, more than likely, it's going to be in favor of Led Zeppelin. So I don't see it going the other way, and if it does, I'd be very surprised.
I agree. I just pulled it up about Bittersweet Symphony via Wikipedia, which is very trustworthy. And it says, although the song's lyrics were written by Verve vocalist Richard Ashcroft, the song has been credited to Keith Richards and Mick Jagger after charges by the original copyright owners that the song was plagiarized from the Andrew Oldham Orchestra's 1966 recording of the Rolling Stones' 1965 song, The Last Time.
I'll have to listen to that song again because I haven't heard that one in a long time.
Yeah, it says the Verve negotiated a license to use a sample, but was successfully argued that the Verve had used too much of the sample.
Oh,
so
okay.
apparently they worked out a deal where they gave Richards and Jagger credit for the song, songwriting and everything.
Well, technically speaking, whether it's song or a TV ad or even just radio, if you used licensed or copyrighted stuff, you can use up to 10% of it. After that, then you got to pay up.
Right.
So the cutoff is 10%. So using more than 10% and get caught for it, then you could be paying some royalties or be facing a lawsuit.
Right, which is what happened to the Verve.
That's right. So it's just one of those things, and it happens, but it just amazes me how much it does happen because there's so many more that we don't know about. And there's so many songs I can think of that use that have used like samples, or the song's been very similar, and there's been battles and arguments about it. And some of them I've never heard anything. I never heard anything about it, whether the band went ahead and took care of everything properly or what happened. But some of them are like, I'm surprised nothing's ever come of this. So it would be my guess that the band and their lawyers, managers, whatever, took care of it properly. That way they couldn't get smacked with a heavy lawsuit for plagiarizing or ripping someone off.
Yes, I just recently heard a song, and it sounded just like Rob Thomas's song. I think it says "Harder to Breathe," and it sounded, the chords and everything sounded exactly the same. I will be shocked if there's not a lawsuit by Rob Thomas about this song.
Well, there's another one right there. So it's like I said, just you hear a lot of times you hear these songs and you wonder like, that sounds really familiar. Then you hear this thing is like, that's not who you thought it was. I wonder if they've heard this yet. So, because it doesn't take long. Doesn't take long for that stuff to travel. It really doesn't.
Yeah, especially since everything is online now and everything is so much closer. So it's it gets heard a lot. Maybe that's one of the things that happened. Technology did catch up with this thing back in the 1960s. When Led Zeppelin and other rock bands were going on, and it was easier, a whole coast didn't hear, the other coast heard, and I don't know, it didn't travel as quickly as it does now.
Well, exactly. I mean, there's so many easy ways to get to it now, and that's the reason why a lot of the stuff on YouTube is pulled down, and it's because of copyright. So as much as we like to watch some of these videos, some of them are put up illegally, even though this sort of stuff's done every day. It's just a matter of, in some cases, getting away with it. So. But other than that, not too much else going on in rock news. I mean, it's been a relatively calm week, like nothing really, really big. And the one thing I did want to put up, and I'll put up later as well, I got it's about 3 or 4 links, but I watched it probably for the third time the other day. I watched, the induction speech when Nirvana got inducted to the Hall of Fame, and the different people they had singing their songs. And they had Joan Jett, they had Lorde, and they had Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, which is awesome. She did a song by them called Aneurysm, which is off their album Incesticide. Joan Jett Which one did she do? Oh, because I know Lord did All Apologies. I think Joan Jett did Smells Like Teen Spirit, to be honest with you. But but Lord did All Apologies, and she got a great voice, but it just, she didn't butcher the song, but it just, I know she put her own spin on it for the show, but still, her voice is just too, I want to say maybe too monotone for it. Okay. So, like I said, she's got a great voice. Otherwise, I mean, she's a fantastic artist. But like when it came to this, like it was all right. It wasn't horrible, but it was like could have done just a little bit better.
Well, did you slow it down or?
Oh, All Apologies is not really like a fast-paced tune. It's more kind of a mellow tune. So I guess that's why they picked that song for her to do. Okay. So, but just her I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. Like I said, she's got a bit of a monotone voice, but her kind of low, almost kind of like, I don't know if you want to say heaving, but kind of sort of pushing her voice like a little bit. So it just didn't seem to fit. Like I'll post a link later, and you see what I mean. Like unfortunately, like I said, I just running a bit behind, so I don't have a lot of stuff queued up. So I will put up the link so you can have a look at it after. But otherwise, it was really well done. The induction speech was really well done. It was nice to see everybody get along, at least for one night. Because obviously, we talked about that a few weeks ago, all the problems between Courtney Love and Dave Grohl and the rest of the band. So it was definitely something to watch. But it was really interesting. And it's kind of cool to think, that I'm seeing a band that I grew up with and like 20 years later being inducted to Hall of Fame. That's really cool for me to see. It's like I grew up listening to these guys. And now they're being inducted to the Hall of Fame. Like, this is really cool. So it's very, very nostalgic for Generation Xers.
Definitely.
But you know what? With every good thing, things got to move forward. So obviously, it sucks that he decided he didn't want to stick around anymore. But regardless, so many different things have spun off from it. And in some cases, like, even though like maybe a tragedies do turn into, we'll call it, higher learning and different ways of doing things. So unfortunately, in a lot of cases, in some instances, tragedies have to happen to kind of expand and have people learn a little bit more about things.
True.
So at least that's my take on it.
I definitely agree. I think that it's sad, but it's the way that a big event happened. It sticks with people, and sometimes a lot of things that happen throughout history kind of forget and move away from. And when you have a really deep loss, that can be something that people carry with them a little more, and maybe make some second guess some decisions that they would make. But I think his death had a huge impact, and it's sad anytime it has to come to that. I hope that a lot of people have learned from that. I remember when Philip Seymour Hoffman died, they said that he'd said shortly before his death that if he succumbed to drugs, that something that came out of it was educating people, and that he could have, it would save a lot of lives. And it's sad that obviously that's not the way that you want that to happen at all, but it is something that is a takeaway from it.
Well, that's right. So we'll finish up with that. I mean, we won't talk about any more mundane stuff right now, but into the happier stuff. So
yes.
A local band from Toronto, The Nursery, who I've interviewed before and saw them play live, are playing June 5th at a place here in London called Call the Office. And before the show, they've agreed to do an in-house interview. So they will be stopping by here to do an interview, and then after the show, and I'll be at the show as well. So I'm looking really forward to that, having all of them in here for the interview. So that'll be a lot of fun. So that'll be live. They're going to be doing it after sound check, so chances of playing a tune maybe not so likely, because obviously their instruments are going to be at the venue. But regardless, they'll be here to talk more about the new album and what they've been doing over the past 6-7 months. So it'll be interesting to hear and catch up with them. And a really cool bunch of guys, and they do put on a really good show. So looking forward to that. And another band I interviewed last summer, they're playing a few shows, and because this show is on the Nursery show is on the Thursday, June 5th. And then June 7th, a local London band punk band called the Stragglers will be playing a show on the Saturday night. So probably be going to that too. So it'll be a very busy weekend, and I'm looking forward to that too. And I probably could convince Mark, Jay, and the guys to come back in for an interview here before they do the show. So hopefully we'll be getting that done as well. And the other thing I want to talk about briefly is I played the clip of it last weekend on NMS, and June, it's 27th, 28th, and 29th, I believe. And it's pretty much the July 1st weekend, so Canada Day weekend. There's going to be a huge festival called the Sheen Festival, and there's over 60 bands playing. I'm really looking forward to that. And 2 local bands from London here. One I interviewed and went to their EP release and saw them live. The other band I saw live, but I didn't get a chance to interview yet. Hopefully they'll be coming soon before that show. The 2 bands are the Gypsy Ghost and another band called High School Sweetheart. So they're both in this festival, which is really cool because this is going to be massive. I mean, it's 3 days long. So.
Wow.
And the guys who are hosting it, and these guys are, not sure I want to define it as a cult classic because I mean because they did do 7 seasons and like 3. They have another movie out right now, but it's the Trailer Park Boys. So every Canadian knows Trailer Park Boys, and some people in the U.S. because these guys are just they're funny. Pretty much, it's 3 guys in a trailer park in the eastern province called Nova Scotia. And one is dumber than a box of rocks. The other's got like glasses like that are super thick, and he's got a bit of a raspy voice. And the other one's always walking around with a drink in his hand. And it's pretty much living the trailer park, and trying to they're constantly in and out of jail, and they're growing dope, and it sounds stupid, but it really is funny. And the thing that one of the funniest parts about all 3 characters is the one guy who plays Ricky, and Ricky's the one who's pretty much dumber than a box of rocks. Is the guy who plays him, Rob Wells. That guy is so intelligent, but when he's playing this character, he really convinces you that he really is that stupid.
Wow, what an actor!
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Because there's one online. It's a collection from all 7 seasons, and they called them Rickyisms because Ricky had a few problems when it came to certain English language things. Like even though he's English himself, he stuff like he says he's arguing with one guy, and he's like, goes, "Do you own space?" Goes, "No, NASA does." or I don't understand investments. Or it looks like a tropical hurricane blew through here. A tropical earthquake, sorry. So a bunch of stuff like that. So, yeah, like I said, he's really funny. But if you actually met the guy, talked to the guy, and you just see him in a regular interview, he is very intelligent. But on that show, he's got you convinced that he really is a big idiot.
Wow. So he's like I said, he's really talented.
So yeah, so that's interesting. And I'm looking forward to that, and I'm hoping I can make that at least one of the days, at least the day when they're playing. So I think that's going to be this Sunday. So I hope you'll be able to make that. But yeah, so that's indie news going on. So that's really cool. So that's coming up, and so June looks like it's going to be a big month for concerts. So probably going to be fairly busy with that, which I'm really looking forward to. And if you guys missed it, just the other day, interviewed Simon again from Public Rebellion about their new EP, No Means Yes. And that was a lot of fun. That was the second time on the show. And it was a little short on time, so I didn't get to ask as many questions as I want to, but it was still a lot of fun. And it was still nice of him to come in, come on that late, because since they're in the UK, it was about 10 o'clock their time, so I really appreciate him coming that late. So Simon, if you're listening, a big thank you again, brother. That was a lot of fun, and thanks for doing that. So, Britt, your blogs, let's get right into them.
Okay. Well, first of all, I will have a wrap-up for yesterday's TV and everything, well, this past week's TV, but as y'all know, the shows are starting to go away for the summer, but don't worry, because there is a plethora of summer television to keep us all entertained. Of course, I'm sure Dr. Bone's favorite, Pretty Little Liars, is returning.
Oh, yeah.
I do like the show, so I am excited for it to come back, but right now, Fargo is still going on, and Game of Thrones will actually be off this weekend, so, but off just with a huge cliffhanger. I'm very excited for when it returns. It's always kind of sad when each season they take this break for Memorial Day weekend because you're all excited and think that, they're going to go 10 straight weeks, but they don't. But it does extend the excitement a little longer. And so I talked about, that in this thing called the TV Rundown. And also the show Reign on the CW, the period drama, it drew to a close last week, so have a full season. Looking back at the creative journey that was Reign, it definitely improved. When the show first started out, I was kind of hesitant. Is this going to really work? The production quality is astounding. I watched Game of Thrones, and then you're seeing the CW show, and they really put a lot of budget into it, and it paid off. The costumes in and of itself are worth watching for, but the story definitely gave you a lot to watch out. So I ended up giving it a B+ because the season did start out a little slow, but it definitely paid out. I'm very much looking forward to the next season. So the best new movie bets, which the new openings this weekend, X-Men, what is it, 6? I don't know. They're just calling it Days of Future Past.
Yeah, I know. I'm not really all sure about that one, so I might wait a little bit before I go and see that second X-Men one.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's getting a lot of great initial buzz, so I am cautiously optimistic. Time travel, I know it's in the comic books, but it just, anytime a storyline, we have to start traveling back in time, I feel like they're run out of story. And I know that might be a little judgmental of me to say, but that's just kind of how I see it.
No, you're right. It's just like a flashback show.
Exactly. So we're not invested in particularly what's being stopped. I mean, it would be one thing if they'd already had the event in the previous movie and they were working to undo it. But the big news, the reason I am excited to see it is because Peter Dinklage, who plays Tyrion Lannister on Game of Thrones, is starring in the movie, and I have been waiting for him to have his big franchise debut and close-up, and so I will be there. He is a phenomenal actor, and I'm super excited that he's in a project of this magnitude.
Right on. You know what? There's I'm just trying to think of there's a few good movies that are being lined up. They're not out yet, but I'm looking forward to when they do come out, because there's supposed to be a second Avengers out in 2015.
Right.
Which I'm looking forward to because the first one was really well done. And actually, I was talking about that with people at work today because we were talking about some of the characters in there. You know, how they're kind of picked perfectly. Like, you know, you couldn't have picked anyone better than Robert Downey Jr. to do Iron Man and plays Tony Stark.
Definitely.
Just because it's exactly almost like his life is. You know, like he's a rich smartass, but he's good at what he does.
That is very true. And I love that he really doesn't make a lot of apologies. I love the Tony Stark character. He's quite frankly my favorite superhero. But Robert Downey Jr. is so synonymous with that role. I have heard people talking about if it ever gets recast, who should play it. Apparently at this juncture, I wouldn't be surprised if Channing Tatum takes over the role. I mean, it's just that's how bad they get Robert Downey Jr. so right as Tony Stark, and then everyone else kind of pales in comparison. But I really do hope that I don't really think it's something that can be recasted particularly. So he's made himself so, like I said, synonymous with the role. I can't even really, I don't even want to think about someone else playing it. Well,
that's right, and even the guy I feel bad because I don't remember his name, but the actor who played the Hulk in the Avengers.
Mark Ruffalo?
Pardon?
Mark Ruffalo?
Yeah. If they did another Hulk movie and he played the character like he did in Avengers, that movie would do very well.
I agree.
So and that's one thing I think they should look into. I know they've had 2 flops so far, but I think he could actually make it worthwhile and actually make it so it's actually enjoyable and it's not a flop. Because the first 2, let's be honest, I mean they weren't good movies at all.
Yeah, they really did struggle.
I mean, from one with special effects to what's his name? Doing the second time around,
Edward Norton.
Ed Norton, thank you. He's a great actor, but didn't quite fit the Hulk role. So
I have to say, I did enjoy Edward Norton as the Hulk, and I thought Edward Norton and Eric Bana were both very good choices to play the role. The material that surrounded. Okay, first problem was the whole storyline in the first Hulk with Eric Bana, and then the second one, they got the storyline right, but the direction was still kind of off. But the special effects are very good. I don't really know. I've heard that they are planning to do a Hulk television show, so I think that they're going to probably end up bringing that story to TV.
Well, no, that may be interesting. Another remake. We'll see how well that does, because some of the remakes aren't exactly the best ones ever, but it's got potential.
Definitely, and I think that once they get that cohesive, everything has to kind of blend together, and I think that's what made Iron Man so special. Jon Favreau, the first Iron Man, Jon Favreau, the directing it, and then the writing team that did it. It was a magic in a bottle experience, and I don't know if every franchise is going to be able to duplicate that process.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing, especially. I mean, it's nice to have that quote unquote killer recipe, but just because it works for one, it may not work for another, right?
Absolutely, I do think that it is as in with any movie, it is a team effort. I've seen how much of a struggle it's been to keep the quality of the first Iron Man movie. No other movies touch that, so you kind of have to wonder if it's just something you can do one time.
Well, you never know. I mean, we can always hope for the best and see what it brings. And and also, has there been any more word on Channing Tatum playing Gambit, or is that for sure? Or
oh yeah, that is for sure. I believe Channing Tatum actually confirmed that on the carpet of one of the movies. I don't know if it was I don't think it was in Cannes for Foxcatcher, but I believe he is confirmed. I'm not super excited about it.
Yeah, no kidding. Myself either.
I know. I feel so bad because X-Men Origins, with the one with Wolverine, they already had Gambit in that movie. It was played by another actor, Taylor Kitsch, who obviously has had some career struggles there, but he was in John Carter in Battleship, and he'd already been set up. I felt like it was time. They kept him in a holding pattern for years about making this Gambit movie. They weren't even going to make it, and then he should have had the right. I don't know if they asked him and he passed, but he was perfectly cast as Gambit. They just didn't want to, put a movie together for him. So it's a shame that they chose to give it to Channing Tatum instead.
Yeah, and like we said, Channing Tatum's a good actor, but for someone like this, he just doesn't fit the role.
No, I think he is very good in comedies. I've not yet been impressed by a dramatic performance, to be honest with you. If you've seen the movie Fighting, you know what I'm talking about. That's all I can say on that.
Okay, well, I was thinking, White House Down was more along the same lines, sort of thing, kind of serious. Obviously, there's been a comic relief because Jamie Foxx, the whole deal, but still, yeah, I just didn't buy too much.
Yeah, I think right now I think its box office is really low. I think he's been in some really good projects and it's been financially successful. I don't know how much that has had to do with people actually going to the movie because Channing Tatum is in it, right, as opposed to it's just a really good project.
Yeah, well, a lot of action, right? So that helped it out a lot. And like I said, it's not because Channing Tatum's a bad actor. He just didn't fit the role too well. But still, it wasn't a horrible movie. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't horrible. It wasn't great either. Put it that way.
All right. Well, I had not seen it. I have not seen either of the dueling president movie because they did Olympus Fallen and then White House Down, and right. I don't know, but why isn't Gerard Butler getting another chance?
Yeah, see, and that's one actor I really like. I know. I know I've said this before, but I'm a huge fan of Gerard Butler. Just because of the characters he plays, and I don't know. I just like him as an actor. I think he's a really good actor.
I do too. I think he is very underrated, and he ended up leaving the Point Break remake. They're doing a reboot of that, and he was going to play the Patrick Swayze role, and they recasted it with it. He left the project. I don't know why, because I saw him in this movie Chasing Mavericks where he surfed, and he did a really good job. So I thought it was going to be a really great project for him. Sadly, change of plans. So
who will be playing the part? Because I didn't even know about this.
Oh yeah, they ended up recasting it with Edgar Ramirez, and I'm trying to remember the parts he's been in, but he's a critically acclaimed, really great actor. So I think I've seen him in a few things, and he's good. They picked the guy who's playing the Keanu Reeves role off of the internet, if memory serves me correctly. But I don't know how this remake will go, but it's interesting. I was excited about Gerard Butler, and but you have to get the right guy to play the Keanu Reeves part, and I don't know. They went for a total unknown this time.
Well, Keanu Reeves is another one of those actors. He's not a fantastic actor, so kind of replacing him it shouldn't have been too hard.
Well, I know, and I don't know why they didn't go with someone who was, well known.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess maybe they figure like this reboot with a no-name actor might like really make it big again. Because I remember watching it for the first time like years ago. I'm dating myself, but anyways, like it was a decent movie, and it was kind of funny because they were quick cameos, but Anthony Kiedis and Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers were in that movie very briefly. They were in the drug raid scene, and I think if I remember correctly, Anthony Kiedis gets shot in the foot. And
Okay.
and also Gary Busey played Keanu Reeves' friend, like a veteran cop, trying to chase.
Oh, right.
So now, and trying to replace Gary Busey in a role like that's got to be pretty tough because he's a whack job and he's just funny to see.
He is the best. I hope that they're able to bring him back in for this one. Oh, by the way, I did find out what Edgar Ramirez, I remember he was in the movie Domino with Keira Knightley. He played her love interest in that. Have you seen that movie?
I haven't seen the movie, but I can kind of picture the previews, so I think I got an idea who he is.
Okay, yeah, he was really good in that. So this is gonna it might be really good. But like you said, Gary Busey, he's irreplaceable. So I really do hope that he shows up in this new one.
No, that'll be interesting. Like I said, I didn't even know about that, so I'd be curious to see what they do with it because I remember the original because the original was pretty decent. I mean, it was one of those. It's memorable. Like I mean. It wasn't like a stellar kind of like 5-star movie, but it's memorable because it had a lot of good scenes in it, and just the fact that bank robbers with all ex-president masks on themselves, and in and out of the bank within like a minute and that sort of thing, kind of made it more interesting and gave it a bit more, made depth to it.
Yeah, definitely. And Fast and the Furious started out as a Point Break remake, and then they ended up bringing in a Vanity Fair article and retooling it as a car movie, but it started out as a Point Break remake. So they've been kind of working towards this for a while.
Wow. Another thing I did not know.
Now you know.
Oh, right on. I never would have guessed that in a million years. But
yeah, it was kind of similar.
So is there anything you're working on in the next upcoming weeks? Anything you got that you're really excited about?
I will be having my Godzilla movie review, went to see that, and it was very good, so I'm excited. It was one of those movies where you see it the first time, you see it, and you're kind of like, it was good, and then you think about it more, and you're like, that was really good.
Well, it's definitely good to hear, because I was a little worried about that one, too, because after the past debacle, I was wondering how this one was going to go.
Yeah, it is good, and it is interesting. They kind of focus on the human side of things, maybe a little too much. But Godzilla, I love the way that he was rendered in this movie. Would I have liked to have seen him more? Yes, definitely. But they kind of tease you with it a little bit, and the trailer did not give anything away. I've been so annoyed with trailers lately for giving the whole story away. And in this movie, they tease the right stuff, and when you see the movie, it's really the trailer gives you a hint of what's going on, but does in no way tell the whole story. I do have to say that Ken Watanabe, who is an outstanding actor, he was minimalized in this movie, and I really wish he would have been given a much larger part. And for fans of Bryan Cranston, I think Bryan Cranston's character kind of took some time away from Ken Watanabe, and I want to see more of him. He just to get more exposure to a wider audience, and it kind of felt like a missed opportunity for him. But Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is from the Kick-Ass franchise, he plays the guy who's trying to he's trying to save people, but not in this save the whole world kind of thing. It kind of focuses on a smaller family level of survival. But for people who've seen the movie Monsters, which is Gareth Edwards, who directed Godzilla, that was his directorial debut. You'll definitely see flavors and shades of that in Godzilla, but he does a really good job. It's a movie that you can definitely picture yourself seeing again, because there are some things you might have missed being, caught up in all the action.
Oh, right on, because I've been, like I said, I've been interested to see that, and I just haven't got a chance to go, but now hearing you say it's pretty decent, I'm a bit more inclined to make more of an effort to go see it.
Yay!
So, that's actually going to wrap it up. We're pretty much out of time here, so we'll definitely be back next week. Hopefully there'll be some more rock news, and can't remember, actually, it starts in June, so we're still about a week and a half, 2 weeks away. But Witches of the East End is supposed to be starting back up in June, so be curious to see how that continues. We'll be talking about that once that starts up again. So until then, it's been a lot of fun, Britt. Like always, it's great having you on. So guys, thank you so much for listening to us. We'll be back next weekend at 1:30. And remember tonight, a new episode of New Music Saturday, hashtag NMS at 8 o'clock. Be sure to tune in for that, because we got a brand new song by a band we haven't heard from in about a year. But I'm leaving it, keeping it secret, and a surprise for you guys to figure it out. So we'll see you tonight, and they will be the first song up. So until then, guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week for Bloggers Corner. This has been Dr. Bones and Britt, and we'll talk to you next weekend. Bones out.